Okay, tonight, First Nephi chapter 20. Chapter 20 and 21 are actually sort of reprints of two chapters from the book of Isaiah. Not word for word reprints, but close to reprints. So the words of Isaiah are found on the brass plates. So Nephi, if you remember, at the end of chapter 19 was referencing those and just starting to share some of those scriptures with his brothers and with their families. So I guess in reading this, he thought it would make sense to paste in a couple of the chapters right here. So that's what's going to happen next year. Chapter 20 and 21 are from the book of Isaiah. To keep in mind what he told them right at the end of chapter 19, right? As he said that he was going to, he took joy in reading the prophet Isaiah to them because he said that they could liken the scriptures to themselves. So that's what we need to keep in mind when we're reading it, right? That these two chapters, he picked them out because he thought there was some lesson that they could learn about themselves, or at least something that would apply to them.
Hearken and hear this, O house of Jacob, who are called by the name of Israel, and are come forth out of the waters of Judah, who swear by the name of the Lord, and make mention of the God of Israel, yet they swear not in truth nor in righteousness. Nevertheless, they call themselves of the holy city, but they do not stay themselves upon the God of Israel, who is the Lord of hosts, yea, the Lord of hosts is his name. Behold, I have declared the former things from the beginning, and they went forth out of my mouth, and I showed them. I did show them suddenly, and I did it because I knew that thou art obstinate, and thy neck is an iron sinew, and thy brow brass.
In verses 1 and 2, he's referring to the people who he's addressing this to in a certain way. Like it's those who would say they were maybe people of God, but really weren't, right? And almost like hypocritical in nature, right? It says, you carry the name, right, but you're not really, who you say you are. Okay, it says, like in the first verse, swear by the name of the Lord, make mention of God of Israel, yet they swear not in truth nor in righteousness, all right? So that's who it's directing it to. So of course, you see right away, the tone that's going to be coming about is the people who are not really who they say they are, but they are carrying the name of Israel, and so that's why that's one of the reasons it applies to even the people who Nephi is sharing it with, because these are all people of Israel, right? Now, as you read verse 3 and 4, and 4 in particular, it's worded a little bit differently, but it refers to people who are obstinate and stiff-necked. Okay, so now who could this apply to in the Nephite case? His brothers, right? Laman and Lemuel in particular. As he reads that and talks about people being obstinate and stiff-necked, well, you can see how he's applying that. Okay, and if you remember in the previous chapters, he was obviously still having trouble with them, and so he's now sharing this with them and said, listen, these people are stiff-necked and obstinate, just like you, right? So you need to learn from what's being said here.
And I have even from the beginning declared to thee, before it came to pass, I showed them thee, and I showed them for fear, lest thou shouldst say, mine idol hath done them, and my graven image, and my molten image hath commanded them. Thou hast seen and heard all this, and will ye not declare them? And that I have showed thee new things from this time, even hidden things, and thou didst not know them. They are created now, and not from the beginning. Even before the day when thou heardest them not, they were declared unto thee, lest thou shouldst say, behold, I knew them. Yea, and thou heardest not, yea, thou knewest not, yea, from that time thine ear was not opened, for I knew that thou wouldst deal very treacherously, and was called a transgressor from the womb.
Remember that this is prophecy, so you have Isaiah dealing out some prophecy here, and so basically speaking on behalf of God. So these words, if they're really prophecy, they're coming from God. So this is God saying, I'm giving you this information in advance for a reason, right? That he's sharing with them as prophetic things that are going to happen in the future. That in verse 5, right? It says, I showed them for fear lest thou should say, mine idol had done them, my graven image, my molten image has commanded them. He knew that Israel would be an idolatrous type of people, right? And as we saw at the time of Moses, they were quick to build a golden calf, and they were typically turning to idols. So now, do you remember the story with the golden calf, how it actually came about, and they said when they made it, the golden calf has delivered us. The golden calf brought us out of Egypt, and it was something they just made with their hands. Now suddenly they were attributing things of God to that. So God is saying here, I'm telling you this ahead of time because I don't want you building some idol and then saying, the idol told me what the way it was going to be. Showing that the words are coming from God, that it's written down, and that as time passed, you see that God revealed things that would happen, as opposed to somebody wanting to say, oh, I built this idol, and the idol told me, or some other way that we found out, what was going to happen, that God was putting it down right from the beginning. Okay, so that's what I'm reading here. He says, I told you from the beginning, I told you early. Now, maybe you weren't listening, but I gave you this information ahead of time that you kind of know what's coming down the road. So, and really any prophecy we could say is it's God giving early indication of what's going to happen. And a lot of the things that happen in the scriptures, or even down to our time, when we see it in the prophecy, it lends a lot of credence to God having foreknowledge and able to say from ahead of time what's going to happen.
Nevertheless, for my name's sake will I defer mine anger, and for my praise will I refrain from thee, that I cut thee not off. For behold, I have refined thee, I have chosen thee in the furnace of affliction. For mine own sake, yea, for mine own sake will I do this, for I will not suffer my name to be polluted, and I will not give my glory unto another. Hearken unto me, O Jacob, and Israel my called, for I am he, I am the first, and I am also the last. Mine hand hath also laid the foundation of the earth, and my right hand hath spanned the heavens. I call unto them, and they stand up together.
In 9 through 13, and God speaking through Isaiah here is saying that in spite of the fact that he was disappointed with Israel, perhaps angry with them, he said he's not going to cut them off. God has chosen people, if you will, are Israel, right? So he designated them as being special. He made the promise to Abraham and said that the promise would come about, right? So just because Israel now turned their back on God for a time, for him to cut them off, well, first of all, he's not going to be able to keep his promise then, right? And then secondly, it's like, well, he loses, right? He had his special people, and let Satan take them all away. So then he loses. So he says, you know what? I'm not going to lose. So we're going to make Israel victorious, whatever it takes, right? So I'm not going to turn my back on Israel. So even if it takes generations, we're going to eventually bring them back around. What's that?
Unconditional love.
Unconditional love. That's right.
Praise God.
That's right. Amen. Okay. So that's what that's about, right? He's saying that I'm upset with Israel, but I'm not cutting them off because we're gonna hang in there with them until the time that we bring them back around. And that has some comfort to the people he's talking to, recognizing they're part of Israel. So that again, God took this family, transplanted them to this land. So even if they all kind of went off somewhat, he was going to find a way to make this work because this is where he transplanted Joseph, was to this land. So they would take comfort in that. To Israel, I'm going to have long suffering with them. I'm going to have a lot of patience with them because it's going to work. Even if it takes a long time, it's going to work.
All ye assemble yourselves, and hear, who among them hath declared these things unto them? The Lord hath loved him, yea, and he will fulfill his word which he hath declared by them, and he will do his pleasure on Babylon, and his arm shall come upon the Chaldeans. Also saith the Lord, I the Lord, yea, I have spoken, yea, I have called him to declare, I have brought him, and he shall make his way prosperous. Come ye near unto me, I have not spoken in secret. From the beginning, from the time that it was declared, have I spoken, and the Lord God and his Spirit hath sent me. And thus saith the Lord thy Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel, I have sent him, the Lord thy God, who teacheth thee to profit, who leadeth thee by the way thou shouldst go, hath done it.
Okay, the time that Nephi is reading this to the people, what had happened in Jerusalem? What happened shortly after they left? Right? And what happened to the people? So the remainder of people from Jerusalem were captive in Babylon at this very time. Okay, so the prophecy of Isaiah was talking about that particular time in history, which was the very time that they were reading this. Okay, so that's why it had meaning to them, because they were taught that, right? And in fact, the earlier chapters of First Nephi, they were told that, so they knew that. So this prophecy refers to that period of time when they would be there. And so what God is telling them here, though, is that the time would come when God is going to bring them out of captivity, right? So that's, again, the part of Israel that was in captivity in Babylon, there would be a time that they would come out of captivity, which is what he's saying in 14, right? That he was going to use certain people and choose certain people to lead that effort to bring them out of captivity. So, and then, history kind of reveals, some of the people who were used for that purpose, right? But it's giving them a message of hope here. So it wasn't that it was necessarily destroyed and done, right? It was destroyed because that was God's judgment upon the city at that time. The people were carried away captive to Babylon. There would come a time they would come out of captivity. And so again, part of the long suffering, as we've been talking about, they go through a period of suffering and punishment for what they've done wrong, but God is still God's people, still my kids, and so the time's going to come, he's going to bring them out of captivity.
Oh, that thou hadst hearkened to my commandment! Then had thy peace been as a river, and thy righteousness as the waves of the sea. Thy seed also had been as the sand, the offspring of thy bowels like the gravel thereof. His name should not have been cut off, nor destroyed from before me. In
many of the prophecies that have to do with Israel, right, you see a similar kind of almost lamenting that goes on. If you'd only done what you're supposed to do, right, how much better things would have been, right? So like in 18, if you only hearken to my commandment, you'd have peace like a river, righteous the ways of the sea. Thy sand also had been, or thy seed has also been as the sand. Now what does that remind you of, or actually what is he referring to? Exactly, that was the promise he made to Abraham, right? So, remember that promise I made? Saying, well, if you were playing by the rules here, if you were following my commandments, we'd be seeing that, come to pass right now, right? Because I made that promise to Abraham, and it is going to come about, but because of it, you're messing up, so, we're not seeing the full fruits of that promise now. So, you can see God as the loving parent, and now the disappointed parent saying, I have such high hopes for you, and you're just not living up to it yet, right? But, he will wait it out till the right generation comes along to fulfill it, but at this point in history, he would be expressing some disappointment there.
Go ye forth of Babylon, flee ye from the Chaldeans, with a voice of singing declare ye, tell this, utter to the end of the earth, say ye, the Lord hath redeemed his servant Jacob. And they thirsted not, he led them through the deserts, he caused the waters to flow out of the rock for them, he clave the rock also, and the waters gushed out. And notwithstanding he have done all this, and greater also, there is no peace, saith the Lord, unto the wicked.
And wrapping it up here, it's again making reference to the people being restored to their previous location, right? It says, go forth of Babylon, flee from those who held you captive, because the Lord is going to watch over you as you go. So again, recognizing that the Lord doesn't forget people just because they've even gone off the path, and perhaps they've wandered to places they shouldn't be. So he's watching over even those who are in captivity and saying, I'm going to bring you back. I'm going to provide for you. And as he talks about water flowing out of the rock, he did that in the story with Moses in the Exodus also, right? But we know that God can provide for them whatever their need is. He wants to get water out of a rock. So on a whole, again, this chapter is supposed to be one of encouragement to the people to say that, even though it may seem like, I'll say we're losing, or it seems like Satan is gaining a stronghold, yet God is really in control, and he will in the end win out, and his people will win out because he's going to be taking care of them and providing for them. And so these people being of Israel, that has meaning to them. All right, but you have to be careful of those who are the stiff-necked ones. So that's why the warning to Laman and Lemuel, you got to be on board here, and so that you would be accepting of what God is doing, because otherwise you're going to wind up left on the side, which they actually did, but he was given the chance to understand what